New Delhi had a special visitor today, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. That's America's foreign minister. The top diplomat from the Biden administration. He was in India for a short visit. He met with Prime Minister Modi, Foreign Minister Shankar and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Also, some Tibetans. And that's one meeting that's making waves. Blinken sat down with representatives of the Tibetan government in exile, the second such meeting between the Americans and Tibetans in recent months. We are awaiting China's reaction, and it's safe to say that Beijing won't be thrilled with this. Perhaps that's the whole point of it, sending a message to China. And that's just one part of the visit. A lot more was discussed. The agenda focused on 5 big issues: Afghanistan, Tibet, the Quad in China, the pandemic, and Wuhan virus vaccines. Let's begin with Afghanistan. The Americans have all but left. They're being slammed for their botched-up exit. The Taliban is gaining ground. The civilian government is on the verge of collapse. Pakistan is making the most of it, relocating terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba to Afghan territory. Long story short, Afghanistan is unraveling. America wants India's support to stabilize it. In the talks today, 2 clear objectives were defined. Number 1, the violence must end. It's imperative to find a political solution to end the conflict. And number 2, Afghanistan should not become a terrorist base and a source of global refugees. Blinken praised India's role in the development of Afghanistan. He said it's set to grow in the months ahead.
India and the United States share a strong interest in a peaceful, secure, and stable Afghanistan. As a leader and critical partner in the region, India has made and will continue to make vital contributions to Afghanistan's stability and development.
The world wishes to see an independent, sovereign, democratic, and stable Afghanistan, at peace with itself and with its neighbors. But its independence and sovereignty will only be ensured if it is free from malign influences.
They sound like they're on the same page. Brief background here. The previous US president mocked India's role and said it should do more than building libraries in Afghanistan. The current US government has made a mess of the situation and is now putting the onus on Afghanistan's neighbors to fix it. And now they have talked. We'll see where this goes. Next on the agenda was Tibet. There were a bunch of meetings, in fact. Blinken met Tibetan representatives, then other American diplomats met them. These meetings were extremely significant, perhaps the most important ones that the American leadership had with Tibetans in the last 5 years. And the objective was clear. America wants to have a say in Tibet. There is bipartisan consensus in Washington on this. In 2016, the Dalai Lama met with then US President Barack Obama. Last year in November, Lobsang Sangye, the former head of the Tibetan government in exile, visited the White House. This meeting happened under the Trump administration. And now Joe Biden is continuing the tradition. In today's meeting, Tibetan officials close to the Dalai Lama were present. The timing is also interesting. Last week, remember, Chinese President Xi Jinping made an unannounced visit to Tibet. He went to areas close to the border with India. He tried to show how Beijing controls Tibet. Today's engagements in New Delhi can be seen as a response to all of this. India and America are keeping an eye on Tibet and on the Indo-Pacific. They discussed the Quad today, the alliance of 4 countries, the United States, India, Australia and Japan. Biden wants to hold an in-person Quad summit this year. Blinken laid the groundwork for that. He said the Quad is not a military alliance. Shankar went one step further. He said China needs to get over its fears that other countries are joining hands to target Beijing.
4 like-minded countries, India, the United States, Japan, Australia, coming together to work collectively on some of the most important issues of our time that are going to have a real impact on the lives of our people. What the Quad is not is a military alliance. It is not that.
People need to get over the idea that somehow other countries doing things is directed against them.
The Quad is trying to be more than an anti-China alliance. So they've decided to work jointly on the pandemic. Blinken thanked India for sending medical supplies when the US was struggling last year.
We remember with gratitude, and we will not soon forget, the aid and assistance that India provided to us in the early days of COVID-19. When our hospitals were overwhelmed early in the pandemic. And I'm proud that we could help return the gesture of friendship. Over the past few months, the United States government has contributed more than $200 million to India for COVID-19 relief.
And finally, they talked about Wuhan virus vaccines. The United States is pitching in $25 million for vaccination programs in India. This money will be used to strengthen vaccine supply chains and address vaccine hesitancy and misinformation. That's also something that America is struggling with. Hesitancy and misinformation. They're derailing Biden's vaccination program. Their cases have doubled in the past few days. We'll bring you a full report on that later on the show. Let me wrap up this story with Blinken's comments. He wants India and the United States to shape the 21st century, quote unquote. His words are welcome. His actions, though, are being debated. And that's something we'll talk about in our next story. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.